What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be breaking down exactly how Dan Bilzerian gets girls. And yes, I know you're probably going to say, well, it's pretty obvious. He's very wealthy, he's famous, and he pays girls to hang out with him. Yes, obviously, guys, but below the surface level, there's actually so much more to it that you guys don't see and don't take into consideration when you think about Dan Bilzerian, all right?
I like a dude who f***ed his life up and then gets it back together with purpose.
So this is the first episode of a series that I'm going to do called Dating Strategy Explained. Let's just call it that. Basically, I'm going to take high-level guys and explain exactly what they did in the past, what they do in the present, and how it all rolls into their current lifestyle and why that works with women. Before we get started, make sure you hit the like button. We upload brand new podcasts every single week. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and stick around for more content like this. Okay, let's dive into it. How does Dan Bilzerian get girls? Dating Strategy Explained. So this video is going to be broken down into several different categories, and we're going to go over them one at a time. Number one, status. Dan Bilzerian has incredibly high status. Dan is a multi-millionaire, and when you have that kind of money, not only are you rich on a global scale, but on a really compacted, specific scale in high income areas such as like Los Angeles, Miami, New York, you're also rich in those areas. So there's a bunch of hot spots in the world for superficial women. And by superficial, I mean women that basically chase wealthy, famous guys. Los Angeles, New York City, Miami, those are three of them. And he lives in Los Angeles. Los Angeles is where all of the hottest 18 to 26-year-old girls in the world flood to at the hopes of making it as a model, an actress, an influencer, Instagram girl, OnlyFans girl, whatever you want to call it. And in order for them to make ends meet, they need somebody to pay their rent if they're not paying it on their own. And guess what? There happens to be a lot of wealthy guys that will pay their rent for them in Los Angeles. Now, it just so happens Dan has a huge ass mansion that he leases through his company. And this massive mansion of his is basically set up as a fucking hotel for Instagram girls. He's got multiple rooms. All the meals are covered. And if you're a hot girl and you just want to live for free and all you have to do is bang a dude once or twice a month, Dan Bilzerian is the fucking guy to see. He literally has a hotel for hot girls. It's pretty much what it is. Now, when you live with that many hot girls too, there's a lot of word of mouth. A lot of hot girls know each other and they invite each other to these things. So if one girl goes to stay with Dan, she's probably going to give a good referral to the other girls that she knows to also want to go stay there as well. So you have this constant cycle of new girls coming in and out, and it is a status symbol to live at Dan's place. Now, this is Dan's status. He has a lot of money, so he can pay for this thing, which is very expensive to continuously run. And he's also integrated it into his personal brand and business. Dan was one of the early adapters to Instagram. And Instagram essentially for Dan was a way that he could display all of this vanity and this lifestyle to get attention from men, but also women. Women will love to be a part of a lifestyle like this, especially when it's a guy that will potentially post them on his Instagram, tag them, and get them a lot of followers and money, which is what a lot of these women are in it for. Dan capitalizes on the shallowness and superficialness of women when it comes to money and fame. And yeah, that's part of his business, but beautiful women, that's their business too. They have a very primitive dating strategy. Go for guys that are wealthy and give them money, either directly through paying for them or indirectly by showcasing them on social media platforms with millions of followers so that other men can follow and then give money through OnlyFans or other types of content. I will say this too, don't blame Dan, blame the women, because this is the women themselves that are making the choice to go and visit him and stay with him. Yes, he pays them thousands of dollars, but at the same time, a woman doesn't need to use her body as a beauty object in order to make thousands of dollars. She can get a job, she can start a business, she can do anything but use her body, but instead she chooses to go and live with a guy like Dan who pays to have sex with them. And that's her whole lifestyle and business, okay? So don't be hating on Dan. That's just how women are. Up next, we have preselection. Preselection is when you have been pre-selected as a high-value option or choice. An easy way of saying preselection would be like, well, this man has already been selected by all these other women, which means that he is selectable to me as a hot girl, okay? So hot girls have seen Dan with all these other hot girls, and by default, they think, okay, well, if he can be with them and I am equal or not as hot as those girls, then he can be with me too. So Dan has pre-selection down to a T. He's constantly seen with hot girls. That's pretty straightforward. He also has a lot of proximity to other famous people, all right? And let's be honest, a lot of famous people in LA are crooks, they're scammers, they're frauds, and they're bullshitting their lifestyle. But those goobers are mixed in with legitimate famous people that have been very successful in life, right? So you're going to see Dan mixed in with all these other celebrities in this area. And because of that, being around other celebrity aura, that also adds to the pre-selection. Famous people have pre-selected to hang out with Dan. And yes, on his social media, there are countless photos of him with hot girls. No shit. Okay, now we're starting to cook. Charisma and personality. See, most people underestimate how smooth this guy is when he actually talks to girls, because in interviews, he does come off as pretty arrogant and douchey, but he's only doing that because everything he says triggers and offends people. In reality, Dan seems like the kind of guy that you could grab a beer with at a hole-in-the-wall bar after a sports game and just have a basic bro conversation. Dan is a man of few words. He's a perfect caricature of the 48 Law of Power, Robert Greene line. Always say less than necessary. Very simple rule. Dan follows it to a T. He barely talks, and when he does, he says the same things. He speaks slow, and you pay attention to what he says because he condenses and simplifies most questions and answers, so you get straight to the point answers from Dan every single time. And that's very useful for communication because communication is not necessarily what you say, but how you say it. He talks like a 20-year-old gym bro. And I know this rubs a lot of guys the wrong way because deep down, a lot of you guys in your 40s and 50s wish that you could talk like a 20-year-old gym bro, but you can't. Only guys like Dan can because he is a gym bro and he's turned that into his brand, all right? Look, if you're a 40-year-old dweeb, but you have a lot of money, you still can't pull off talking like a gym bro, all right? I know this is confusing. You guys are like, gym bro, what are you talking like? It's hard to put in the words, but Dan can get away with it because he is a gym bro and he doesn't necessarily need to talk any more fancier than that. Like his whole business is banging 18 to 25-year-old models, okay? And 18 to 25-year-old models like 20 to 25-year-old gym bro conversations from guys that are wealthy and famous like Dan Bilzerian. So there's no incentive for him to go a step further and come off as more elegant or mature in the way he talks. It works for him. Okay, now we're going to get into the background information. And this is something a lot of people overlook about guys like Dan, is that they didn't just wake up and become wealthy and famous on Instagram. Now, I'm not going to go into how he earned his money because that's a bit questionable, but let's go back into his background as a guy before he was famous. So, number one, his history of work was pretty, air quotation, badass. He was a professional poker player, okay? He would go to Las Vegas, which is considered like the playground of the rich and wealthy. Big, bright, flashy lights, water fountains, lots of money. His job was to go in and play poker, high-stakes poker against other millionaires, okay? And he was beating guys that were more wealthy than him, more successful than him, and he was just this gym bro coming in and flooring dudes that were worth a lot more than him. So that has some kind of mischievousness to it, but also at the end of the day, when you're asking a guy what his job is for work and he says, oh, I'm an engineer, oh, I'm an architect, oh, I'm a lawyer, cool. Well, I'm a professional poker player. I beat people for millions of dollars. No matter how you look at it, guys, it's kind of badass, okay? To an 18 to 25-year-old girl, that sounds pretty mysterious, I would say. Okay, origin story number 2, Navy SEAL. That's right, motherfuckers. America, baby. Nothing more respected than a veteran and somebody that has done military service. Now, has Dan actually done legitimate military service? It's hard to say if this considers to be military service, so I will tell you what he has done. He did BUDS training, which is basic underwater demolition training, and it's a 24-week course that he almost completed. And had he completed that 24-week course, he would have been approximately 50% done Navy SEAL training, okay? And I don't know about you guys, but anybody that's a Navy SEAL automatically gets my respect. That's such a fucking badass job. I mean, respect your veterans for one, but Navy SEAL, that's like the highest caliber. Now, to be fair, he did not complete Navy SEAL training. However, in order to even get into Navy SEAL training and get as far as Dan did, you have to be within the top percentage of athletic men. Okay, so he was of a physical caliber that the majority of men in their entire lifetimes will never reach. And for that, I respect him. Okay, I think that's very impressive. So when you look at his background, you look at a guy that plays poker against millionaires and did Navy SEAL training. Those are two pretty badass backgrounds to come from, okay? So it's not like he just made a startup app. It's not like he had a successful landscaping business. He came from two pretty cool areas, and that gives him a cool origin story. A lot of you guys don't take into consideration some of these things, but this is very valuable. Like, the background story is cool. He wasn't a gardener, guys. He was almost a Navy SEAL. Okay, now let's look at his physical body. Now, first criticism you guys are going to give, he's short. Yes, he's 5'7", all right? I think that would be considered a manlet, technically. If you're like 5'10" or less, you're a manlet, according to the internet. A bunch of fucking dudes that have never left their room, for sure. But yeah, he's 5'7", which is pretty short, okay? But on the contrary, he is fucking deezed. This guy has sick genetics. He's fucking muscular as fuck. He's built like a brick shithouse, okay? Yes, he does steroids. Yes, he lifts weights probably 2-3 hours a day, maybe less. I don't know his routine, but the guy's deezed. He has maxed out his physical body with muscle, okay? So that's definitely put him up a couple points. If he was a skinny 5'7", this would be a totally different conversation. But no, he's deezed as fuck, okay? He has really good facial features, you know? His fucking beard is iconic. He's really shaped his beard to make his head look much different shaped than it actually is. And it looks cool. He looks like a Spartan. Same with the hair on his head. He's got a beautiful head of fucking hair too, okay? So he's got good genetics that way. He's also tanned. He's out in the sun all day, so he's got that nice olive skin tone. Little things like that definitely add to his value as far as his physical attraction. And, you know, I will say this, I always feel weird rating dudes because, like, who the fuck does that? I guess, you know, it's because it's part of the channel, right? But yeah, Dan's at least a 7 out of 10 just on physical assets alone. He takes care of himself. He's got good genetics as far as his face and his hair, and he's deezed, okay? But the other points to get him closer to a 10 come in with fame, status, and money, which he has covered. This is why he would be in the upper echelon of like 8 or 9 in the eyes of a woman, because he's got the fame, status, money, and on paper, he's maxed out his physical attraction as well. The only downfall he really has is his height. And I suppose if you're trying to attract like a smarter girl, maybe he's a little bit too simple for a lot of them. But like I said, for 18 to 25-year-old dumb hot chicks, he's got the perfect formula. But I'll tell you this, if Dan was like 6'1", dude would be a straight 10, okay? The guy would be unstoppable. But like I said, he still makes up for it in other ways. All right, let's get into the strategy. Okay, so now we've covered all the stats and the facts. His actual strategy is a mixture of playing on all the strengths he has, right? So he's got a cool background story. He's got a lot of money from his dad, but also his business. He's famous, and he was an early adapter of the Instagram flex lifestyle. He's got preselection. He's got celebrities. So how does he use all of that in order to get the most girls that he desires? Let's break that down. So number one, he is associated / partnered with Ignite. Ignite is a company that sells, from what I understand, CBD, cannabis products, vapes, bathing suits, I don't know, random shit like that. And they sell products at a very low production cost with a high markup, right? So he takes something that's not worth very much, sells it for a high price, but all that money that is spent to convince people they should pay the high product price for it is in the marketing. And his marketing strategy is getting hot girls to wear and hang out and be associated with his products. People are very simple. They see hot girl using something and they pay attention. If it was just Dan using these products, I mean, sure, you'd get some guys that were interested in just like his physique, his weightlifting routine, and the fact he gets to shoot guns and stuff. But let's be honest, most people are clicking for the girls. Dan knows that. So that's his marketing strategy. Dan uses the company to pay girls thousands of dollars a week to hang out with him. Okay, so this is where the paying girls thing comes in. Depending how you look at it, you could see it as shady, but essentially what he does is he pays top models thousands of dollars a week salary or living allowance to come and hang out with him. Hang out with him, guys. Now, they don't want to fuck him, but he has said this many times. You put 50 hot girls in a house with him and like 2 other dudes. Naturally, it's in a woman's nature, woman of that caliber's nature, to associate a lot of value with Dan and start to compete to sleep with Dan. And then when one girl sleeps with him, this girl wants to one up the other girl, or she also wants to sleep with Dan because, hey, if that girl did and said it was great, I want to as well. So he basically uses all these girls to come work for him, air quotation, model his stuff. But what they're really doing is just living in his house and then over time wanting to fuck him, based purely on the art of seduction that he's using in ignoring them, not giving each of them a lot of time, and then the women competing with each other to want to get his time and associating high value with his attention and doing whatever he wants, which generally sex, okay? They get taken care of. They get living quarters, meals, accessories. Like if you're a hot girl and you just need a place to live for like a couple months, just go stay with Dan Bilzerian. Yeah, so Dan, he takes a couple Cialis and fucks all day. And then when he does give attention to the girls, they feel special. It's validating for them. Sometimes they get pictures on Instagram. Like I'm telling you guys, these top 18 to 25-year-old women on the looks scale, like they live off of male attention and validation. And a lot of them live off the money they make from male attention and validation. So even the ones that are just using Dan to get Instagram followers, their whole business is to sell their body to men. So I could have told you guys all that in the 15 seconds of the video. I think I did already, but that's a more elaborate breakdown of what he's doing. He has it set up where they come to him and he gets to pay for it because it's marketing. And because of the way everything's set up, the women compete and fuck him. But will this work for you? That's the real question. We're going to break that down right now. The reason it works for Dan Bilzerian, number one, he was first. He entered this market before anybody else was doing this. Sure, there was Hugh Hefner, but Hugh Hefner was in his 60s. He had a magazine, and he wasn't necessarily ready for the internet blowing the doors open with access to naked or hot-looking women, okay? So Dan was an early pioneer in the online space, not just having a porn website, but having a PG-13 page where he just showed him living this luxury lifestyle with hot girls everywhere. He was the OG. He was the only guy doing that and publicly displaying that. Many guys do this. They just don't show the internet it. Dan had no fucking problem showing the entire internet. So he was an early adapter and everybody's aware of it now and it's almost worn off its shine. I think a lot of guys are trying to do the Bilzerian thing, but it's just not working for them for many reasons. But one of them is Dan Bilzerian was first. Number two, Dan Bilzerian has a huge budget, okay? We're talking millions of dollars a year is essentially given to him, which pays for his mansion, it pays for the girls, it pays for the marketing, the posting. Everything is paid for by the company. So when you have that much fucking money, guys, and you set up a mansion and then you have somebody that's job is just to DM hot girls and offer them thousands to come and chill with you, I would say that's the closest you can get to Dan and his lifestyle. Because of course, if you did that, you could get a lot of girls. So the question is, do you have that kind of budget? Because if not, then no, you can't be like Dan. Number three, he has a modeling company. This is the funniest shit ever, guys. Any dude that has like a modeling company or they sell merch and they have girls, female girls model it, what they're actually doing is being like, hey, I need to think of an excuse to have a bunch of hot girls hang out with me. Oh, it's for work. I own a brand. It's a modeling gig. Of course. You know, it's a little bit sneaky, greasy way for nerds and dorks to get to hang out with high caliber women. You see a lot of dudes in LA doing this. It's business. Like, hey, you know, we're doing a shoot for our merch drop. Like, bro, the only way girls can ever go near you is if you're paying them to hang out with you or you're validating them online. Now, the thing is, a lot of these guys have no game. But when you get a bunch of girls in that area, just sheerly because there's so little dudes there, yes, they will compete for you. And it's hilarious. You're not really going to get real sex or connections with these girls. They're just going to kind of use you. But that is a setup that you can use, guys. Own a modeling / merch company. Number four, why it works for Dan. He has a cool origin story. This is what I was telling you guys before, all right? He isn't just a social media influencer, a prankster, a TikToker. He's not a guy that sold his landscaping company. He did Navy SEAL training, and he gained a lot of notoriety beating people in high-stakes poker, okay? Pretty badass. Because when I think poker, I don't think like fat dudes in their basement, onlinepoker.net or whatever. I think Casino Royale. In reality, most poker is probably just dudes in a chat room online. But when I think poker, I think James Bond, Casino Royale, flying out to Montenegro, badass, Mission Impossible shit, because that's just the way that poker has been marketed in mainstream media. And I like to think that that's how cool poker is in real life, but we know it's probably not. But yeah, you take an average girl off of Instagram and you tell her that you're a fucking poker player, she'll be like, oh my God, James Bond? Wow. Right? So that's what I'm getting at, guys. He has a cool origin story. Number 5, why it works for Dan. He's a Chad, okay? There's no other way around this. He's genetically blessed with his facial structure. He's got great hair, great beard, and he has maxed out his body, all right? Yes, he's only 5'7", but he is a deezed 5'7". The guy is yoked. He's probably like 200 pounds, low body fat, tan as fuck. Even if he is on steroids, the guy works hard all day, lifts weights, and has the best available supplements, okay? So, you know, there's a lot of guys that are like in the 5'7" to 5'11" range, but they don't take care of their body at all. They aren't at a low body fat, and they aren't as deezed as Dan. And let's be fair too, Dan has a really good facial structure. So he's not an ugly deezed guy. He's a good looking deezed guy. So if you're watching this thinking, well, fuck, I want to be Dan Bilzerian. Okay, well, you're going to have a really good face genetically, good hair genetics, and you're going to have to lift weights consistently for at least 15, 20 years and be deezed as fuck if you want to be a Chad like Dan. Okay, number 6, Dan Bilzerian. He has a cool voice and he knows how to talk to girls because in his experience of this dynamic he's had for the last 10 or so years, he has talked to so many of these 18 to 25-year-old supermodel girls that he probably knows them like the back of his hand. He knows what to say, how to say it. And what I'm getting at more so than the things he does say is how he says it. Dan has a pretty cool voice. He's got a deep voice. He speaks slowly. He uses intonation. He knows how to talk to girls to get their emotions high and low. He can speak to them in ways that make them feel good to be around him. He can seduce them with his voice, all right? Now, I'm not saying he seduces dudes in his interviews, but he has a cool voice. He has a deep voice, and he can put that on. Most of these fucking dudes in LA, like famous dudes, they have weak, feminine, cornball voices, okay? They're high-pitched like this. But Dan, he's cool, smooth, well-spoken. Genetically speaking, he has a cool voice. The guy speaks a lot differently than most other rich cornballs in Los Angeles. Anyways, conclusion time. At the end of the day, if you took away fame, money, and logistics, Dan would still be able to pull hot girls, okay? Let's say he was 41 and he's in, I don't know, maybe not LA or Miami, but any other city in North America, he would still pull bitches, okay? He could go to a gym, meet some bros there, hang out with other cool bros that do cool shit, go out, be deezed, have a good face, good hair, smooth talking, cool voice, and he could probably pick up some 18 to 25-year-old hot girls at the club, okay? I have full confidence in Dan doing that. You cannot say the same about all the other dorks in LA trying to copy the Dan Bilzerian style, all right? You take away their fame, their money, their logistics, drop them anywhere, they would be fucked, okay? They don't have the good facial genetics. They don't have the good hair genetics. They don't have the good voice. And they're not deezed. They're not physical presences, okay? They're just cornballs with lots of money and fame. So, yes, Dan gets a lot of flack. Oh, you know, he took money from his dad, blah, blah, blah. That might be true. But in the eyes of a hot girl, they don't care, okay? Hot girls wait at the finish line and they bang the winners, okay? That's why Dan Bilzerian bangs so many hot girls. And these feminists on TikTok can't stand it. They hate that guys like Dan exist because it exposes the purest form of the female dating strategy. Go with guys that validate them, give them lots of money, directly or indirectly, and fame by social media. That's what a lot of these hot girls want. They want money and fame online. So they will fuck dudes like Dan Bilzerian. And all these TikTok feminists will lose their minds over it because it is counterintuitive to their dating strategy. Anyways, Dan is a gym bro. Gym bros are pretty much Chads. Chads always do well with girls. Now, if Dan loses his hair, stops taking care of his body, he's fucked, okay? If he turns into a meatball, he's not going to do well. Sure, he can get new hair, but the idea is genetically, he's maxed out. He's got the charisma. He's smooth. He's got a cool voice. And on top of that, he's got all the money, the cool background story, and pre-selection in the world. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to hit the like button. We drop brand new podcasts every single week talking about dating and lifestyle improvements for young men. I'm going to start doing more videos just like this. So if there's somebody that you guys want us to do a video on to explain their dating strategy, drop it in the comments below. Next week, I'm doing one on Pete Davidson. That one got requested a fuck ton. Join our Discord if you want to talk to other guys about dating and lifestyle improvement. And if you guys want to request a video, go to the link in the description. I have a request a video section on my website where you can pay me to do a video on whatever topic you would like me to do a video on. What's cool about this too is not only are you helping support the channel, but you're actually supporting all the other bros that watch this channel. Because whenever one of you guys pays to sponsor a video topic, that video topic is not only for you, but everybody else who watches. So everybody else will get free content because you decided to sponsor a video topic by going to my website and filling out the form and paying for one, okay? Bros helping bros. Anyways, guys, I'll see you next week. Peace.